There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. You want evidence? Egypt is evidence. Exodus 32. Now look what Aaron says at verse 4, and he received them at their hand and fashioned it with the graving tool. Oh, that's your technology, right?
Egypt, graving tool. Egypt. This is like an Egyptian sitting down on the seat, his feet down here, his hand reaching over to the street. Goonies.
You know what Satan's tactic is today? You don't see the conspiracy here. His conspiracy right now is whether you join his system or not, it don't matter. What he's going to do is, one, he's just going to kill you off, or secondly, he's just going to try to get you on his side.
Hello, May. I'm gonna own the big with you.
Locust rising from the pit.
And Cain knew his wife, so I've explained what that meant. It was within the family. So I'm not going to try to justify or explain this line again. And she conceived and bare Enoch. So then she gave birth to a son named Enoch. And he builded a city. So Cain built a city. Why? Because he's starting to have a family. He's starting to have a lineage. Now keep reading here. And called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So
we're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year. Right in front of you, they mock the crap out of you. And now let me just kind of start drawing it in for you. So, see, that's just the bottom half of the kid's body, and the belly button is the eye of the serpent. So that's what, you know.
So the eye of the serpent pokes out of the belly button.
The serpent had his eye on the womb of the female. That's it.
Okay, yeah, so the eye, the womb, the female, the belly button, the male, female, create man in their own image, man and women. Created he, him, himself, and then created he, them. serpent, and then the belly button.
And Cain knew his wife, so I've explained what that meant. It was within the family. So I'm not going to try to just plain answer for that one. But there was also a conspiracy. There was also a conspiracy reason behind it. The intention and the conspiracy is because, remember, the serpent part about the promise of the seed in Genesis 3. We looked at that verse, right? Genesis 3, I think it was 15. And God, he would try to murder from the beginning. He would try to do that so. Oh, we got scriptural proof for that. John 8. See that? John 8.
So anyway, so then again,
Notice
here
what
you go.
Jesus Christ.
Here's the serpent. There's the eye of the serpent. There's the mouth.
John
open,
8.
the legs hanging out.
Dude,
And if
John
watch
8.
my cursor right here. If I colored all that green, that would be the other body you could make of the
Proof
serpent
for that, John
that's
8.
fully
See?
swallowed the kid's body. But I wanted to make a point. Serpent. There's 3 serpents eating him. Okay, this is not arguable. So I just proved to you. Now, remember Barack Hussein Obama's presidential portrait? Why is the whole damn thing a big serpent? Like this.
Serpent in the garden. Eight doors. Turn inside and lock the key and seal it up. So there he is, beheaded.
Gulp. By the mystic order of the Kukumahacha, 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 Kukumahacha. Wanna remember? No. There's the way out.
There's everybody surveilling them, watching them through their surveillance, laughing at them, laughing at me, turning things upside down. It's a city Cain built. It's a city.
See that? John 8.
Wanna be a member? Wanna be a member?
Is whether you join his system or not, it don't matter. What he's going to do is, one, he's just going to kill you off, or secondly, he's just going to try to get you on his side. It's going on right now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to brainwash you to join their liberal ideology, and if not, then we're going to cane you. We're going to silence you.
There you go.
We're going to ban you from the account and kill your account.
See, now that line, you see how that lines up more with reality? It ain't about literally killing. It's about killing your voice.
Because you just post too much stuff online that's just doesn't
Yeah.
follow with our worldview.
I can see that.
All right, First John 3. So Cain became the serpent seed. John chapter 3. John chapter 3. Fear that it's not because he killed that he was the child of the devil. It's because before that. Verse 12 says, wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil and his brother's righteous. See that? So it was long before. He killed from Cain's own morals and ideology.
So Seth was created.
It means moral man. Moral man, which is intensely interesting. It means moral man. Why?
Looking at this from a view of singularity, as one individual does the Adam and Eve thing with the serpent in the garden. The man does the listens to the idea from the serpent with the feminine side, and then as they two become one, they intercourse with each other inside of your own body. And then when you create the Cain city, because if another person does it, if they're part of the city, it's birthing. It's like giving birth to another person, because when they do that with their host body inside, they become part of the city. And then they fornicate and migrate, and they have the cattle and music and Cain's worldviews and poetry and religion and technology and seed. And so so Satan created his man and woman in his beginning, and so then Abel is killed as Cain kills Abel, because Abel offered up the sheep, killing his sheep, and Cain offered up his to uproot, gut, and replant, as in resurrection of life. And so once Abel was done, then Seth is here, and then he becomes where he has to now build his morals and ethics.
Because perhaps Seth, he believed in that there's going to have to be morals now. Because with Cain, he has his own morals and logic. So I have to start my seed that would conflict be different from Cain's own morals and ideology and system. Now this is very interesting. The last part reads, then began men to call upon the name of the Lord.
Which is now.
So then after that, what does that mean? That means that
everybody that went in that direction is now calling upon the name of the Lord after they did what they did.
Because a new seed was starting out, and remember Cain's seed was already starting, that's what it means, is that now we've got mankind, we have a human race, so to speak, that can call upon God. And calling upon God means prayer. But I'm going to there's something very interesting behind that. It's throughout the entire time of Cain's civilization, before Noah's flood, it was not there was no such thing as idolatry. Monotheism. One God. So remember that versus mankind start to call upon God.
For him, they had delivered him. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him.
Numbers 22. Balak summons Balaam. The sons of Israel journeyed and encamped in the plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan, opposite Jericho. This is beyond. Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites.
Okay, so anyway, so there you go. There's Lady Gaga and she gets out of an egg, and she says,
I sure love showing my head here on a platter. So Moab was in great fear because of the people, for they were numerous, and Moab was in dread of the sons of Israel. Moab said to the elders of Midian, now this horde will lick up all that is around us, and the ox licks up the grass of the field. And Balak the son of Zippor was king of Moab at that time. So he sent messengers to Balaam the son of Beor, and Pethor, which is near the river, in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, behold, a people came out of Egypt. They cover the surface of the land, and they are living opposite me. So they are dwelling opposite of him, settled next to me, living right across from me. Now therefore, please come, curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I may be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. So the elders of Moab and the elders of the Midian departed with the fees for divination, the rewards in their hand, and they came to Balaam and repeated Balak's words to him.
The governor answered and said unto them, whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. So Christ became a stumbling stone to them because of the doctrine of and when you take the false Messiah figure, that false anointing brings forth exactly what's written in the book of Revelation, and that is the doctrine of the Nicolaitans right there.
He said to them, spend the night here, and I will bring word back to you as the Lord may speak to me. And to the leaders of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? What are these men? Who are these men with you? Balaam said to God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent word to me.
It says, and I quote, my performance at the Grammy Awards is about a new race of beings being birthed in the human race.
Behold, there is a people who came out of Egypt, and they cover the surface of the land. Now come, curse them for me. Perhaps I may be able to fight against them and drive them out. God said to Balaam, do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. I would assume that the reason why they would be blessed is because these are the people that have the ability to surveil. These are the people that have those eyes that can see. So it's good for them to be blessed and not cursed. The leaders of Moab arose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refused to come with us. Then Balak again sent leaders, more numerous and more distinguished than the former. They came to Balaam and said to him, thus says Balak the son of Zippor, let nothing, I beg you, hinder you from coming to me. For I will indeed honor you richly, and I will do whatever you say to me. Please come then, curse this people for me, please. Balaam replied to the servants of Balak, though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could do not anything, either small or great, contrary to the command of the Lord my God. This is like being taken to that mountain, offered the entire everything to the 13th, number 13, to in this system, the woman that has the 12 stars above her head. Now please, you also stay here tonight, and I will find out what else the Lord will speak with me. God came to Balaam at night, because this is in secret in the night vision, and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise up and go with them, but only the word which I speak to you shall you do. So Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his donkey. So he's riding in on a donkey and went with the leaders of Moab. The angel of Balaam's donkey. But God was angry because he was going, and the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary. I don't think he was quite agreeing with his adversary at that time against him. Now he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. So he had his 2 witnesses with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in his way, with his drawn sword in his hand, I'm sure that's interpreted that way also. He has his drawn sword in his hand, unafraid. The donkey turned off from the way and went into the field, but Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back into the way. To turn her into the way. So Balaam hit her to return her to the path. Then the angel of the Lord stood in the narrow path of the vineyards, with a wall on this side and a wall on that side. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pressed herself to the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall, so he struck her again. The angel of the Lord went further, and now in a narrow place where there was no way to turn to the right hand or the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam was angry and struck the donkey with his stick. And the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam, what I have done to you, what have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? Then Balaam said to the donkey, because, you see, you have made a mockery of me. If there had been a sword in my mouth, a sword in my hand, I would have killed you by now if I had a sword in my hand. The donkey said to Balaam. The donkey said to Balaam, am I not your donkey? Because Balaam was going to kill, the donkey. And am I not your donkey on which you have ridden all your life to this day? Have I ever been accustomed to do so to you? So, and then that's when he understood, like, yeah, no, you got a good point there, jackass. And then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam.
All right, so we'll change the highlighted color now of the doctrine of the Nicolaitans.
Good idea. very well. And he said, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in his way with his drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed all the way to the ground. And he fell flat on his face. He fell flat on his face, fell on the ground, fell face down. The angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey?"
Oh.
Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out as an adversary.
Good morning, family. This is Matthew chapter 5.
Because your way was contrary to me. But the donkey saw me and turned aside. So the donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, I would surely have killed you just now and let her live. So the donkey would have lived. But he would have been killed. Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the way against me. Now then, if it is displeasing to you, I will turn back." But the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but you shall speak only the words which I tell you." So Balaam went along with the leader of Balak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. So Balaam went with the Balak officials, went along with them. So he just went along with them. This word means different than so Balak. He went with Balak's officials. He went with the princes of Balak. Balaam went along with the leaders of Balak, because the doctrine of Balaam is the stumbling block doctrine. Because of that reason, because he went along with them. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, which is in the Arnon border, at the extreme end of the border. Then Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not urgently send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I really unable to honor you? Like, I can't give you all these gifts and rewards, and you're just not gonna fall for that trick?" So Balaam said to Balak, "Behold, I have come now to you. Am I able to speak anything at all? The word that God puts in my mouth, that I shall speak." And Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep. So he sacrificed, how they're yoked together, the oxen, and he sacrificed the sheep. So Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep.
And y'all know who you are? Oh,
Because the doctrine. That wouldn't let me change it. That's all right. The doctrine of the Nicolaitans is to conquer the laity.
And sent some to Balaam and the leaders who were with him, Then it came about in the morning that Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the high places of Baal. And he saw from there a portion of the people. So he saw a portion of the people. Then Balaam said to Balak, build 7 altars for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here. Balak did just as Balaam had spoken, and Balak and Balaam offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, stand beside your burnt offering, and I will go. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet me, and whatever he shows me, I will tell you. So he went to a bare hill. He went to a bare height. He went off to a barren height, a high place. Now God met Balaam, and he said to him, I have set up the 7 altars, and I have offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. Then the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, return to Balak, and you shall speak this. So he returned to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, he and all the leaders of Moab. He took up his disclosure and said, from Aram Balak has brought me, Moab's king, from the mountains of the east. Come, curse Jacob for me, and come, denounce Israel. How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? And how can I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced? As I see him from the top of the rocks, and I look at him from the hills, behold, a people who dwells apart and will not be reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, or number the 4th part of Israel? Let me die in the death of the upright, and let my end be like his. Then Balak said to Balaam, what have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, but behold, you have blessed them. He replied, must I not be careful to speak what the Lord puts in my mouth? Balaam's second oracle. Then Balak said to him, please come with me to another place. Let me try to lure you into this one from where you may see them, although you will only see the extreme of them and will not see all of them, and curse them for me from there. So he took him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. And he said to Balaam, stand here beside your burnt offering, while I myself meet the Lord over there. Then the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, return to Balak, and thus you may speak. He came to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, and the leaders of Moab with him. Now Balak said to him, what has the Lord spoken? Then he took up his discourse and said, arise, O Balak, and hear. Give ear to me, O son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie. God is not a man. God is not a man who lies. God is not human, that he should lie. God is not a man, that he should lie, nor a son of man, that he should repent. Has he said, in other words, spirit, has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Behold, I have received the command to bless. When he has blessed, then I cannot revoke it. He has not observed misfortune in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. The Lord his God is with him, and the shout of a king is among them. God brings them out of Egypt, He is for them like the horns of the wild ox. For there is no omen against Jacob, nor is there any divination against Israel. At the proper time it shall be said to Jacob and to Israel what God has done. Behold, a people rises like a lioness, and as a lion it lifts itself. It will not lie down. It will not lie down until it devours the prey and drinks the blood of the slain. That's a harsh reality of truth right there. In the wild. Then Balak said to Balaam, do not curse them at all, nor bless them at all. But Balaam replied to Balak, did I not tell you whatever the Lord speaks that I must do? Then Balak said to Balaam, please come. I will take you to another place. Perhaps I can get you to agree over there with God that you curse them for me. So perhaps it will be agreeable with God that you curse them for me from there. So again, the third time he took them up. So Balaam took. It would help if these two names were just not very similar. So Balak took Balaam to the top of the pier. Just look at it like he rode in on a donkey to the top of the Peor, which overlooks the wasteland. Balaam said to Balak, build 7 altars for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here. Balak did just as Balaam had said, and offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. When Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek omens, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel camping tribe by tribe, and the Spirit of God came upon him. He took up his discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam the son of Beor, and the oracle of the man whose eye is opened, the oracle of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down, yet having his eyes uncovered. How fair are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling, O Israel, like valleys that stretch out, like gardens beside the river, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. Water will flow from his buckets, and his seed will be by many waters. And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brings him out of Egypt. He is for him like the horns of the wild ox. He will devour the nations who are his adversaries, and will crush their bones in pieces, and shatter them with his arrows. He lies down as a lion, and as a lion, who dares rouse him? Blessed is everyone who blesses you, and curses everyone who curses you. So Balak dismisses Balaam. Then Balak's anger turned against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. And Balak said to Balaam, I called you to curse my enemies, but behold, you have persisted in blessing them these 3 times. Because apparently Balak denied it 3 times, like Peter denying Christ 3 times. Therefore flee to your place now. I said I would honor you greatly, but behold, the Lord has held you back from honor. No, he didn't. From that type of honor, well, yeah, the worldly honor, silver and gold, being bought off, it doesn't always work. especially now, in the end. Balaam said to Balak, did I not tell your messengers whom you had sent to me, saying, the other one said, did I previously tell you the messengers you sent me? I not also to thy messengers which you sent me? Did I not tell your messengers whom you sent to me? Did I not tell your messengers whom you had sent to me, saying, though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything. I cannot go beyond the command. I could not, I would not, I could not do anything of my own accord, good or bad, contrary to the command of the Lord, either good or bad, of my own accord. What the Lord speaks, that I will speak. And now, behold, I am going to my people. Come, and I will advise you what this people will do to your people in the days to come. Balaam's fourth oracle. He took up his discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the oracle of the man whose eye is opened. So, does that mean Balak's eye is open, or some other man? The oracle of him who hears the words of God and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down yet having his eyes uncovered. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come forth from Jacob. A scepter shall rise from Israel, and shall crush through the forehead of Moab. Just like David smacking Goliath in the forehead with a sling and a shot, and tear down all the sons of Seth. Edom shall be a possession. Seir, its enemies, also will be a possession, while Israel performs valiantly, triumphantly. One from Jacob shall have dominion, and will destroy the remnant of the city. Balaam's final three oracles. And he looked at Amalek, and took up his discourse and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his end shall be destruction. And he looked at the Kenite, and took up his discourse and said, your dwelling place is enduring, and your nest is set in a cliff. Nevertheless, Cain will be consumed. How long will Asher keep you captive? Then he took up his discourse and said, alas, who can live except God has ordained it? But ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, and they shall afflict Asher, and will afflict Eber, and so they also will come to destruction. Then Balaam arose and departed, and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way.
Letters. And y'all know who you are. Oh, the Lord told me to tell you I'm supposed to come see you. No, he didn't. No, that's you saying it. It's not the Lord God. I speak to the Lord God all the time.
It's not the one I'm looking for. But anyway, the whole point is, but for thee the Lord hath not suffered you to do so. Just see going down there. It's basically where Joshua, they come in there, they spy out, they see the giants in the land. They talk about they're more than able to overcome them. Here we go. But for the
and from Bamoth to the valley lying in the region of Moab by the top of Pisgah that looks down on the desert. Pisgah was obviously a raised area. In fact, it's just a few miles northeast of the, or east rather, of the northeast edge of the Dead Sea. Let me show you. I've got a map actually that I want to show you of this area so you can kind of get a sense. Now, Israel is over here on the other side of, the Salt Sea, but you can see where the nation of Israel basically is now, this area of this Pisgah, which, is about 5,000, well, close to 6,000 feet. And it says from up there you can see the whole valley. And so this is they're obviously not up on top of the Pisgah, they're in that region around it. And so there's this huge area, landmass, that they're taking a look at. And eventually Israel is going to move their way, across the Jordan, and they're going to make their way into the Promised Land. They're not there yet. But where they are right now is very significant because it is from here that the king of Moab is going to present a challenge here to Israel in the coming chapters, and we'll get into that. In fact, it's not the last time we'll read about it. And it says in verse 24, and Israel defeated him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land. It is not the last time we'll read about it. And it says in verse 24, and Israel defeated him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land. It was from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as to the Ammonites, to the border of the Ammonites, for the border of the Ammonites was strong. And this was a very large area. Let me show you again. We'll put the map up here, and this box just basically kind of covers the area where this king ruled. That was his kingdom. And this was not meant to be part of God's promised land. This was not part of the promised land. But they conquered it, and it will eventually be the home of the tribe of Gad and Reuben. They're going to ask to stay there after they go into the land to help the promised land.
Israel. It sure looks like a high heel at the bottom. A woman leg. High heel. The buckle at the top. Up top to the left. Up here. Just noticed another snake upside down. As it comes around, and then its head blends into the land, just like the other way around with the art museum.
And this was not meant to be part of God's promised land. This was not part of the promised land. But they conquered it, and it will eventually be the home of the tribe of Gad and Reuben. They're going to ask to stay there after they go into the land to help their brothers clear the land of the Canaanites. They're going to ask if their families then can stay there, if they can come back then land to help their brothers clear the land of the Canaanites. Land to help their brothers clear the land of the Canaanites. They're going to ask if their families then can stay there, if they can come back then and remain in the land. So who lived in Heshbon. So they defeated him and his sons and all his people until he had no survivor left, and they possessed his land. So now Israel, as you can see, is living in this vast area on the wrong side of the Jordan. Again, this is land that God did not intend to give his people. This was not part of the original promised land, and yet Israel has conquered these nations because these nations basically came out and tried to fight against Israel. And so now they're living there, at least for the time being. And as I said, 2.5 of the tribes of Israel will eventually stay. And so now they're living there, at least for the time being, and nations, because these nations basically came out and tried to fight against Israel. And so now they're living there, at least for the time being. And as I said, 2.5 of the tribes of Israel will eventually stay there. All right. Another interesting situation. I mean, in one sense, Balak's fear is understandable because the nation of Israel has already conquered these other nations there on the other side of the Jordan. So his fear, I suppose, is well placed. But what's interesting, or what he didn't know, is that God had actually commanded the Israelites to leave Moab alone. Don't touch them, right? So God had no intention of, giving the land of Moab to Israel. And if he just, of course, if the guy would have known that, probably wouldn't have been so fearful. But did you notice that the last thing it says here is that he was overcome? In fact, the whole nation was overcome with fear. And when you're overcome with fear, you do stupid things, don't you? You do dumb things. You do things you wouldn't do otherwise. There you go. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, "This horde will now lick up all that is around us as the ox licks up the grass of the field." So Balak, the son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at that time, sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor of Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the people of Ammah, to call him, saying, "Behold, the people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me. Come now, curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me."
Commit fornication. What is that stumbling block, and what is the sacrifices or sacrificing to idols to commit fornication? That was to bring forth a Messiah figure of their own thinking and their own minds.
"Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land, for I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." Stop there for just a minute.
That's what that's
We are
about.
introduced to the main character of these next 3 chapters. Balaam, who appears out of nowhere. We've never heard of him before, and what we learn of him is that he has a gift of prophecy, although he's mixed with some weird pagan kind of influences and divining and that sort of thing, sorcery. And we don't
Letters?
know. Well, we
y'all know
get
who
into
you
the
are.
story and we find out that he has an understanding of Israel's covenant God. He even refers to Israel's
The
covenant God
committing
by his covenant
fornication
name, Yahweh.
is to bring forth those children through
How
fallen
Balaam
angels.
came to know Yahweh by name as, the God, and to make him his own God, which he claims in this passage, you'll see, we don't know. We don't have any idea. What we do know is that Balak knew who he was and respected him for his power. You'll notice Balak
Oh,
said
the
to
Lord
him,
told me
I
to tell
know
you I'm supposed to
that
come
those
see you.
whom
No, he
you bless
didn't.
are blessed, and those whom you curse are cursed. So Balaam is considered a powerful man. Verse 7. So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian, you see we've got kind of two nations going on here, the Midianites and the Moabites, departed with the fees for divination. You'll notice that they brought some money with them. Apparently that was a common payment for such services. But does that sound clear to you as far as a response from God? It sounds pretty clear to me. God says, you shall not go, you shall not curse them. They are a blessed people. Refuses to come with us. Once again, Balak sent princes, more in number and more honorable than these. And they came to Balaam and said to him, thus says Balak, the son of Zippor, let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will surely do you great honor. And whatever you say to me, I will do. Boy, when your king says that to you, that means something. Come, that love of gain. Verse 35. And the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but speak only the word that I tell you. So Balaam went on with the princes of Balak. And when Balak heard that Balaam had come, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab on the border formed by the Arnon, at the extremity of the border. And Balak said to Balaam, did I not send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? In other words, do I lack the means to make you a wealthy man? And Balaam said to Balak, behold, I have come to you. Have I now any power of my own to speak anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that must I speak. And then Balaam went to Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzoth. And Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep and sent for Balaam and for the princes who were with him. And in the morning Balak took Balaam and brought him up to Bemoth Baal, and from there he saw a fraction of the people, referring to a very small visual part of the nation of Israel. Listen, I have some information for you, and it's worth something. It's worth everything you promised to me before. And so I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to tell you how you can defeat these people. And I'll bet you Balaam got his money. But you know what? It didn't last him very long at all. You want to know how Balaam ended? It's the last verse we look at here. And we go back to the Old Testament, to the book of Joshua chapter 13. It says, Balaam also, the son of Beor, the one who practiced divination, was killed with the sword by the people of Israel among the rest of their slain. And that's talking about when God wiped out that area through his people. Balaam died. He probably got his money from Balak. He never got a chance to enjoy it because
he went back
God
to his
exercised
place.
judgment.